Now, this is another follow-up on Rome rising to power. It has been brought to my attention through my research that immediately after the EU Parliament elections in May, the Allied parties will form a new group in the European Parliament called the European Alliance of Peoples and Nations, the result of numerous meetings over recent months. And this is a group of far-right, right-wing parties that are coming together to form this alliance. Politico reports that Silvio Berlusconi has joined Hungary's Viktor Orbán in calling on Europe's conservatives to form an alliance with the far right. Italy's flamboyant ex-prime minister is running for a seat in this month's European Parliament election for his Forza Italia party, which is a member of the European People's Party, the EPP, the European Union's dominant center-right bloc. Speaking on Italian television Thursday night, he said the EPP should abandon its long-standing informal coalition with the center-left Socialist and Democrats, S&D, and Parliament's second-largest bloc. Later on Thursday, he tweeted, "The EPP must leave the alliance with the Socialists and turn to the right, to the Conservative and the Nationalists. I'm convinced that even Orbán," that's the Prime Minister of Hungary. Now, this far-right League Party is interesting. I just discovered something that kind of is really sort of a biblical piece of the puzzle. This Italian League Party, they take their name from the Lombard League, Italian and Lombard, Liga Lombarda, was a medieval alliance formed in 1167, supported by the Pope, to counter the attempts by the Hohenstaufen Holy Roman Emperors to assert influence over the Kingdom of Italy as a part of the Holy Roman Empire. Well, the Italians in 2015 on YouTube, in this League Party, they were giving speeches, and they had medieval knight, a sword of a knight in the hand, and armor, chainmail armor, like a statue. I don't want to say statue. It was kind of like a paper cutout, and then you could put your face through there and look like you're a knight. But the thing that caught my attention was the banner, the flag that they wave for the Lombard League is the winged lion. And the winged lion, we know, is in the book of Revelation. I know that many interpretations have been given for who this lion is that has the wings that were plucked off. But that's very interesting that these Italians have the winged lion on this flag for their party, for the political party that has members running in the EU. It's very complex, so I'm trying to just, tell as much of it as I can. There's a lot more that I won't be able to tell. And one of the things that's causing this far-right movement to rise in power is the fact that they have people that are against George Soros for being responsible for flooding Europe with migrants, particularly Middle Eastern migrants that have caused all kinds of terrorism. So these groups are wanting to halt the migrants and wanting to deport them out of their countries, so this is no longer a problem for them. So the League Party of Italy is named after Lombard League, a federation of northern Italian cities formed in 1167 to resist the attempts of the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick I Barbarossa, 1152-90, to organize and to consolidate imperial rule in northern and central Italy. So you basically have these Italian clans from ancient times, and they're all rallying to their clan groups again and forming these alliances and hoping to gain power into this EU Parliament election that's coming up. And I believe they'll be having elections probably, I saw May 26th, but I think May 23rd through the 26th, this will be going on. I find it absolutely incredible to have the Lord point that out to me about the League Party, that they, in 2015, they were shown, you know, with a sword in their hand with the chainmail, as I said, and then they had little banner flags that were kind of like medieval style flags, and they had the winged lion on them. When I saw the winged lion, I knew that was right out of Bible prophecy. And it's interesting that the first beast in the first vision of the biblical prophet Daniel resembled a winged lion. So many interpretations have been given about the winged lion, but this is something new that just, the Lord just kind of shows me things, and so I'm just presenting it to you as a possibility. But as far as the winged lion, in Daniel 7:4, it says, "The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it." The lion is used in the Bible as a symbol of authority and power. The symbol is applied to Christ as the Lion of Judah, but it is also the symbol for Babylon, the destroyer of nations, and the seat of the apostate religion, which would seek to entice God's people into idolatry. The prophet Jeremiah prophesied about Babylon's destruction of Jerusalem using the symbol of a lion for this mighty power. Archaeology has revealed that a lion with eagle's wings was a common symbol in Babylonian designs and sculptures. Moreover, the eagle often symbolizes the sun god. This means that the sun god powers the lion. This union of the human element with the sun god is in defiance of the true God. Wow, isn't that interesting? Now, what's even further interesting is that I told you that this far-right group that Julius Caesar Mussolini is running for the EU Parliament, for the far right, and it's interesting that all of these parties, after the elections, after they get into power, they're going to form this alliance and of the peoples and nations. And, of course, the religion of Babylon forms the basis of all pagan religions, making Babylon a fitting symbol for the end-time confederacy of religious powers aligned against God and his people. This confederacy will control events at the end of time and is portrayed in Daniel 2 as the feat of iron and clay. In the closing stages of Earth's history, a power resembling Babylon will once again control the planet's events. So Rome and her alliance of these Italian clans are forming basically an alliance together to accept the far-right view. And they want to deport millions of people that have flooded into their countries. Now, if this coalition includes this League Party that's the Winged Lion, and they're rising to power, and Julius Caesar Mussolini is running for Rome, you can see how this alliance will rise to power and then have the Pope's religious affiliations connected, and how this will all rise as the end-time coalition. It is interesting to note that yesterday Trump had Hungary's controversial leader in the White House in a meeting, and he compared this Hungarian leader to himself Orban is probably like me, Trump said Monday in a joint appearance at the White House with visiting Hungarian Prime Minister. A little bit controversial, but that's okay. You've done a good job and you've kept your country safe, he said, while declaring that Orban, one of the EU's most controversial leaders, has done a tremendous job and is respected all over Europe. And as you recall, when the migrants came flooding in, Hungary put, fencing all around to keep the migrants out of Hungary. And this is what this coalition wants to do. They want to get rid of these migrants and deport them. One estimate said 500,000 they want to deport in one of the countries. Regarding Orban, Politico says that in Paris, two of France's leading candidates in the European election faced off in a debate Monday, but the hottest topic wasn't Macron's plans or European migration policy. It was Hungarian leader Viktor Orban. Prime Minister Orban has become a divisive figure in the run-up to Europeans' Parliament vote, with his ruling Fidesz party now suspended from the powerful center-right European People's Party, EPP, and hints that he may want to team up after the election with the far-right forces. So that would be the far-right. Julius Caesar Mussolini is in the far-right, and the League Party, and these other Italian clan parties that, have formed, that want to form this one big alliance. Politico also reports that Orban's government has faced criticism, for example, for passing a law that the George Soros founded Central European University said essentially forced it to leave Hungary. We should be able to tell Mr. Orban that closing a university should never be admissible. Soros readily admits that he is turning this university into a lobby against Mr. Orban, Bellamy said. Bellamy is one of the French candidates. Another statement in Politico, Orban and Salvini of Italy flirt with alliance after the EU election. In Budapest, Hungarian Prime Minister and Italian far-right leader play up prospect of a tie-up. Now, Salvini is with the League Party. Hungary's Orban took Salvini to see the border with Serbia, where Hungary, during the 2015 migration crisis, built a controversial fence to keep out asylum seekers and migrants. It's said that any attempt to form a tie-up with Salvini would also meet fierce resistance from within the EPP, whose more centrist members pushed to exclude Orban from its ranks. In Revelation 13, at verse 11, says, "Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth." The second beast arising does not arise out of the sea, the multitude of nations, but out of the earth, in an area that was previously not inhabited by great nations, multitudes, peoples, and tongues. So, it's in Italy, the Federalist Northern League Party step up political war. Now, this was written in 2015, but that's where I saw the winged lion on the medieval flags. Now, it appears that this winged lion has his paw on a Bible. So the Italian League Party's emblem is the Italian knight wearing chainmail with the hood and all, and the sword raised up in his hand, and then he's got a shield in the other hand, and the shield has the winged lion. In this case, the flag with the winged lion on it is red with goldish yellow of the color of the lion and the design around the flag. The winged lion that's on the shield and on their flags is actually the lion of St. Mark, representing the evangelist St. Mark, pictured in the form of a winged lion holding a Bible. It's the symbol of the city of Venice and formerly of the Venetian Republic. It is also found in the symbol of the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Alexandria. It appears in both merchant and military naval flags of the Italian Republic. The Lion of St. Mark is also the symbol of the award of the Venice Film Festival, the Golden Lion, and of the insurance company. So this is the winged lion of St. Mark with his foot on the Bible. And this is what the Italian League Party has as their emblem. And this is right out of Daniel's prophecy. And here's the winged lion of Venice. And Venetian tradition states that when St. Mark was traveling through Europe, he arrived at a lagoon in Venice where an angel appeared to him and said some Italian words. "May peace be with you, Mark, my evangelist. Here your body will rest." This is possibly apocryphal. Tradition was used as justification. This is another image of the winged lion of Venice. And I told you that some of the relics were taken from the Hagia Sophia during the Crusades, taken to Venice, where some of the relics remain today of the disciples of Christ. You can see the winged lion right at the top of this crest. This was the coat of arms of John Paul I. This is the Venetian lion of St. Mark on the Venetian coat of arms. This is the winged lion on the jack of the Italian Navy. And this is the flag that the Italian Lombard League waves. This is the winged lion of St. Mark with his foot on the Bible. And clearly, this is an end-time prophecy of the winged lion gaining power and the rise of the revived Roman Empire, which of course includes Rome and the papacy and the apostate Pope and his bringing all the religions into one, including pagan religions. So God just opened my eyes to see all this, and this is what's forming right now. As soon as they get elected, they're going to form this alliance of the peoples and nations. And that will be the end-time ruling power, I believe, based upon what the Lord's just been showing me. In Revelation 13, the second beast works together with the first beast. And some have said the first beast was Rome and the papacy. And they will force the world to pay homage to the first beast, which political power would arise on earth with enough power to compel the world. What will its relationship be with Rome? Well, could it be that the Roman faction, the Roman party of the far-right fascist group will be one aspect or one beast, and the other parties forming in the rest of Italy will form the alliance between the first and second beast? It's quite astounding thought. Let me tell you something strange. When I got on here to record this video, I didn't come on here to talk about the beasts of Revelation or the winged lion. But as I was researching while I was recording, these things just popped right up, and one thing led to another, just leading to, what John saw in the book of Revelation, coming to pass at the end of days. So what you're witnessing is the Lord revealing to you, basically live, what the winged lion is in the book of Daniel. And I believe that this is profound, that this is coming to power at the EU Parliament elections. So I don't think it's what it's been interpreted to be before. I think that people were trying to jump to a conclusion before the actual event came before our eyes, They were trying to make sense of the scriptures. And so, I don't want to say other people are wrong or what have you, but the Lord just revealed this. Now, one of the reasons they want to form this coalition is not only to stop the migrants from coming in, but Italian debt is the second highest in Europe. Italy's Populist Party, the populists demand more EU help for Italy, the main destination for migrants arriving from North Africa, and it insists that the estimated 500,000 undocumented migrants in Italy must be deported as a priority. And it states, this is a BBC reporting, that would require the creation of, quote, temporary stay facilities, end quote, throughout Italy for migrants earmarked for expulsion, the parties say. So that's their plan. The Populist Party also sees Russia as a potential partner for the EU and NATO. They want to work with Russia against the smuggling of migrants across the Mediterranean and the continuing influence of violent Islamists. They also see Russia as a key player in ending the wars in the Middle East. The New York Times reports that Matteo Salvini, the anti-immigrant politician who's the most powerful figure in Italy's government, on Monday announced the formation of a new European alliance of populists and far-right parties ahead of critical European Parliament elections in May. Others will join between now and the 26th of May, the last day of voting, Mr. Salvini, leader of the League Party in Italy, said at an event in Milan with allies from Denmark, Finland, and Germany. Our objective is to be the force of government and change in Europe. The elections in May have become a rallying point for European populist parties, once relegated to the margins, to seize their building momentum and expand their power across the continent. The popes that had the coat of arms showing the winged lion was in recognition of their previous position as patriarchs of Venice, Italy. Now a little bit more information on the winged lion. St. Mark's lion, symbolizing the Republic of Venice, also appears on the ensign of the Italian Navy, where it does not hold the gospel in its paw, as it does in the civil ensign, where the book is open to the words meaning "Peace to you, Mark, my evangelist," but wields a sword instead. Such an image is consistent with the pictorial tradition from Venetian history, in which the book is shown open during peacetime and closed during wartime. The Venetian lion appears in two distinct forms. One is a winged animal resting on water to symbolize dominance over the seas, holding St. Mark's Gospel under a front paw. You can see these mighty animals all around the Mediterranean, usually on top of a classical stone column. The other form is known as the lion in Molucca, in the form of a crab. Here, the lion is depicted full-faced with its wings circled around the head, resembling the claws of a crustacean. It's emerging from water, so that the lion in Molucca is associated with the lagoon and the city, whereas the standing winged lion is thought to be more associated with Venetian territory around the Mediterranean. Other elements often included in depictions of the lion included a halo over his head, a book, or a sword in its paws. Now, the symbolism of the winged lion. St. Mark, represented as a lion, is derived from Mark's description of John the Baptist as the voice of the one who cries in the wilderness, "Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight his paths," which artists compared to a roaring lion. The wings come from Ezekiel 1:10 and the application of the prophet's vision of four winged creatures to the evangelist. These appear again in Revelation 4:7. So the wings are represented by that. And we know that the wings of the lion were plucked up. So that's interesting. And it says a second connection of St. Mark and lions comes from a tale recounted by Severus ibn el-Mukaffa. Once a lion and lioness appeared to John Mark and his father, Aristobulus, while they were traveling in Jordan. The father was very scared and begged his son to escape while he awaited his fate. John Mark assured his father that Jesus Christ would save them and began to pray. The two beasts fell dead, and as a result of this miracle, the father believed in Messiah, in Christ. In some depictions, the lion rests his front paws on the ground, often in cities with rivers or in ones close to water, indicating the Venetian balanced power on land and sea. A little bit more about the history of the Lombard League. The League's two most famous victories were the Battle of Legnano in 1176 and the Battle of Parma in 1248, defeating the Holy Roman Emperor's attempts to invade Italy. The League would dissolve in 1250 on the death of Frederick II. So this League had core member city-states that belonged to the League. And I won't read them all, but obviously this history is pertaining to now and what's going to happen in the EU Parliament elections with Italy's parties that go back to this history. In the 7th chapter of the book of Daniel, it tells of Daniel's vision of 4 world kingdoms replaced by the kingdom of God. 4 beasts come out of the sea. The Ancient of Days sits in judgment over them, and one like a son of man is given eternal kingship. An angelic guide interprets the beasts as kingdoms and kings, the last of whom will make war on the holy ones of God, but he will be destroyed, and the holy ones will be given eternal dominion and power. Now, a summary of Daniel 7 is interesting. I want to point this out because this brings together Bible prophecy and something that I discovered when I was researching the Mussolini connection. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, probably 553 BC, Daniel receives a dream vision from God. He sees the Great Sea, which is actually the Mediterranean Sea. It's another name for the Mediterranean. In it, he sees the great sea stirred up by the 4 winds of heaven, and from the waters emerge 4 beasts. The first a lion with the wings of an eagle, the second a bear, the third a winged leopard with 4 heads, and the fourth a beast with 10 horns, and a further horn appeared which uprooted 3 of the 10. As Daniel watches, the Ancient of Days takes his seat on the throne of heaven and sits in judgment in the midst of the heavenly court. The 4th and worst beast is put to death, and a being like a son of man approaches the Ancient One in the clouds of heaven and is given everlasting kingship. A heavenly being explains the vision. The 4 beasts are 4 earthly kings or kingdoms, but the holy ones of the Most High shall receive and possess the kingdom forever. Regarding the 4th beast, the 10 horns are 10 kings of this last and greatest earthly kingdom. The 11th horn, king, will overthrow 3 kings and make war on the holy ones of God and attempt to change the sacred seasons and the law. He will have power for a time, 2 times and a half. But when his allotted time is done, he will be destroyed, and the holy ones will possess the eternal kingdom. I think it's interesting that it mentions 4 beasts because 4 nations got together to come together to create this EU alliance that will take place after they're elected. Now, what Daniel saw was the Mediterranean Sea stirred up, and these beasts came up out of the Mediterranean. So let me just connect this part. I've already read this, so now this is connecting this to that. Dictator Mussolini had grievances shared by many Italians after the Treaty of Versailles was announced. He believed that Italy should be allowed a sphere of influence in the Mediterranean Sea, as he believed that Italy was the most powerful of the Mediterranean countries. Mussolini referred to the Mediterranean Sea as Mare Nostrum, the same as the Romans had done when they dominated Europe. Mare Nostrum translates as our sea. So in Daniel's vision and his prophecy, he states that he saw these kingdoms, these kings, coming up out of the Great Sea that was stirred up, and that's the Mediterranean Sea. As I stated in one of my former videos, the whole of Italy juts out like a boot into the Mediterranean Sea, surrounding it pretty much on all sides except for the north. Now, it's interesting that the Mediterranean Sea was actually called a Roman lake, and the reason why is when Augustus Caesar founded the Roman Empire, the Mediterranean Sea began to be called Mare Nostrum, our sea, by the Romans. Their empire was centered on this sea, and all the area was full of commerce and naval development. So it started with the Romans, and then Mussolini wanted to have control of the sea, and now the fascists also would like to have the Mediterranean Sea in their control. So you've got these beasts rising up out of the Great Sea. And of course you've got all kinds of other countries, that have ports on the Mediterranean Sea. Now, the Mediterranean Sea is where all the migrants crossed over into Italy, and that's what the fascists and all of these alliances of the Italian leadership want to stop. They crossed the Mediterranean into their country. Italy actually had an operation, Mare Nostrum, that was a year-long naval and air operation commenced by the Italian government on October 18, 2013, to tackle the increased immigration to Europe during the second half of 2013 and migratory shipwreckages off Lampedusa. During the operation, at least 150,000 migrants, mainly from Africa and the Middle East, arrived safely to Europe. The operation ended on October 31st, 2014, and was superseded by Frontex's Operation Triton. Now, it's already well known that Russia is depicted as the bear, but let me just mention this, that Jörg Meuthen, a leader of the far-right Alternative for Germany Party, or AfD, said at the news conference that there were absent partners who will join us soon. Immediately after the elections in May, he said, the Allied parties will form this new group with the European Parliament called the European Alliance of Peoples and Nations, the result of numerous meetings over recent months. It's interesting to note that, as I was researching this, the coat of arms of Berlin is actually the black bear. And, of course, Germany had the Leopard tanks. The coat of arms of Berlin is used by the German city-state as well as the city itself. Introduced in 1954 for West Berlin, it shows a black bear on a white shield. On top of the shield is a special crown created by the combination of the mural crown of a city with the so-called People's Crown, used in Germany to denote a republic. Berlin's various boroughs use their own emblems. The bear has been used as a charge in the Berlin coat of arms since 1709, formerly alongside the eagles of Brandenburg and Prussia. So with this German leader stating they're going to form this alliance in the EU and change Europe, it's interesting that this bear of Berlin is in the mix. As far as France possibly being the leopard, it says this distinction having been invented by French heralds, and we, taking so much of our heraldry, our language, and our customs from France, adopted, and to a certain extent used this description of lions passant as leopards. There can be no doubt, however, that the lions passant guardant upon the English shield have always been represented as lions, no matter what they may have been called, and the use of the term leopard in heraldry to signify a certain position for the lion never received any extensive sanction and has long since become obsolete in British armory. In French blazon, however, the old distinction is still observed, and it is curious to observe that on the coins of the Channel Islands, the shield of arms distinctly shows 3 leopards. The French lion is our lion rampant. The French leopard is our lion passant gardant. Whilst they term our lion passant a leopard lion, and our lion rampant gardant is their lion leopard. So the French blazon is considered to be depicted by the leopard. And all of these emblems were in Daniel's vision as well. So you could have Macron and the French and the Germans and Berlin, all of this coming together. Of course, we know other people have other interpretations that have been in the news all over for years. Russia, of course, does have the emblem of the bear, but it's interesting that Berlin also does. So these leaders will come together and form this new party within the EU Parliament. And that will be the end-time scenario of the nations and peoples, which is what their party's going to be called. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share today. And I thank you for watching, and please support my channel and help my fund. I really need your help. Thank you very much.